Hello tacticians, it's Nox here, and before we dive into our first look at Sarquael of the Dark Angels, I would just like to say thank you to Nero666, Drakensberg, Zepar, Contested Salt, Large Marge, The Count, Curly, Geargrax4, So Paranoid, and Waldo for using my friend code. It is very much appreciated, and if for some reason you don't want to use my friend code, please have a think about using one of the other content creators' friend codes because it really does help us what we do. Anyway, let's have a look at Sarquael. As always with these previews, this is on the dev test build, so I can actually get to see this character, and I have leveled him up to level 26 as if he was going to be used in the live PvP tournament. So the first trait he has is Final Vengeance, where when he loses his last health, he'll make a normal attack on an eligible target and is then defeated as normal unless he is overkilled. He has Overwatch, which means he's going to play very nicely indeed with Azrael, who will give him a bonus with those Overwatch attacks. And finally, he has the Heavy Weapon trait. Now, Thaddeus is going to be liking this guy because, of course, he does give those heavy weapon bonuses out. His active is Supercharge, where he will deal plasma damage to a target enemy within 3 hexes and a further amount of plasma damage to up to 2 enemies in adjacent hexes behind the initial target, all with an additional 20% pierce ratio, so this will take that plasma damage up to 85% pierce rather than the normal 65%. Until the beginning of Sarquael's next turn, any further hits that deal plasma damage against these units also have that additional pierce ratio. Now, considering there's only 2 other units in the game at the moment with plasma, which is Azrael and Thutmose, it will be of limited use. However, it does make you ask, will the rest of the Dark Angels also use plasma damage? His passive ability, Grim Retribution, means that during each enemy turn, that's each character enemy turn, if there is no enemy adjacent to Sarquael, he will shoot back at the first enemy within range that attacks him or a friendly adjacent Dark Angel unit, where he will deal plasma damage. And we will see this in effect now. So here we're going to look at Supercharge, where we're going to fire at Archimatos here and see how it affects the ones surrounding him. So on the first shot, it hits Ulf and shows Syl behind him. Let's try that again. And this time it hit Certus and Ulf. So if there's a crowd around the first person, it looks as though it's going to be random. So here you can see Certus is forward. I just want to see if it could actually hit Certus in this situation. And after a few attempts, it looks as though, because Certus is actually closer, he won't be hit at all, which is something to bear in mind when it comes to positioning and using this skill. So here we're going to try a few things. First of all, we're going to shoot with Show Syl here to see if he could get shot by Sarquael if he's out of range. So, Show Syl doesn't get hit, but the drone, which is actually 5 squares away, does. Interesting. Secondly, you will see that as we move Certus in, neither Overwatch fires, because of course he has got Infiltrate. However, as soon as he will shoot at either of these two, all of a sudden that Infiltrate no longer matters. He'll still get shot. What is interesting to note here is, although he doesn't trigger Overwatch on the way in, it looks as though Sarquael loses his Overwatch. Yeah. So this time, instead of shooting first with Certus, we're just going to trigger the Overwatch of Sarquael with Ulf here. Now, obviously, in the real thing, we'd go in into close combat to hit him, but we just want to trigger the Overwatch to see what will happen now that Sarquael has actually shot and has lost his Overwatch. If you still shoot, Sarquael will shoot at Certus even then. This is something to bear in mind, so if you want to shoot at him, make sure you do it in the right order. So the best thing to do in this sort of circumstance is make sure that Sarquael can't attack by moving in. Now, obviously there's his Overwatch and there's Azrael's Overwatch, which does take a chunk of health off. And now, if you wanted it Azrael, Sarquael cannot shoot because he is of course in close combat with Ulf here. So what we've learnt from all this is if you move into range with Sarquael, he'll shoot at you. If you then shoot at Sarquael, he'll then shoot back. Now the final part of this puzzle is if you shoot at him and he dies, he will still take a shot, so he could fire 3 times in your turn. Something to bear in mind when you're out there seeing him in the live PvP tournament. As such, probably the best way to take care of him in live PvP is to run somebody up to him, preferably someone with infiltrate so they don't actually get attacked. Now, the main person who comes to mind is my personal favourite, Jane Czar, who will quite happily run up to him with her infiltrate and will stop him from shooting. If you haven't got Jane Czar, there is another character who has recently been buffed, and that is of course Darkstrider. So here we have Darkstrider, and he's going to go in and obviously not trigger Overwatch because of his infiltrate, but now he is going to shoot and put suppression on, and the Grim Retribution will still trigger. So even with suppression, that Grim Retribution will still occur. So where does this leave us with Sarquael on a PvP perspective? Well, I think he's going to be on the one to watch list. I don't think he's going to have any major impact immediately, but when more Dark Angels are added, I think there could be a team there. So how about PvE? Well, this guy has only got 1 place in the guild raids, and that's going to be against Mortarion, where he probably will have a use if you gear him high enough. And apart from that, you're looking at legendary events, and there are a couple of events which have got a maximum of 1 hit in the ranged as a requirement, and obviously the less than 2 shots too. And of course he will be an asset there, especially when teamed up with Azrael. So whilst Sarquael is not going to be changing any meta anytime soon, I honestly believe that in the future, when we have the full Dark Angel team, that there could be something there to work with. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you or your guild are looking for a new home, please feel free to reach out to any of the guilds shown on screen now. And if you find my content useful, please feel free to like and subscribe, and of course to use my friend code, because it really does help me out. However, until next time, I'll be seeing you on the battlefield.